Hi there, lovelies. So I am back, and today I want to go over what my process for my monthly review looks like. Now, I showed you my monthly assessment before in a prior video, and I also showed you my personal chaos inventory. Now I want to show you how I use those two tools to reflect on the prior month to see what areas I can focus on for improvement, continued growth, and fulfillment. So, first thing, pretty simple, is my top 10 highlights or accomplishments for the past month. These could be things that I am grateful for, things that just stood out in my mind as really awesome experiences, or things that I'm really proud of. So this past month, a lot of family themed things. I went to Atlanta, I saw my family, had a great time there. I cleaned my house from top to bottom. I did some volunteer work. I spent quality time with some friends. I forgave a family member who I was having a little bit of issues with, and some other fun times with friends and family, and keeping up with some habits I was working on building. Then I asked myself, what did I do to make myself grow or feel good in this past month? The reason I asked myself this question is because I want to learn from the things that worked. So if I, took PTO time and felt that I felt really good after doing that, or if I went to the doctor and felt like this was something that I feel was beneficial for me, I write those things down and keep note of them. So in future months, when I feel like I need to take time for myself or I'm feeling a little stuck in a rut, I can refer to this list. Then I type out some people or incidents that I've learned from or lessons I've learned. These could be very small, simple lessons all the way to very huge life altering things. So I know last month I learned how to make vegan queso. So I thought that was pretty cool. I think one of these is actually outdated on here. I tried to do this during lunch today, so I was rushing through it because I like to give myself an hour and a half to do this, and obviously my lunch break is only an hour, so didn't get to finish it all. Yeah, Sacred Geometry. I learned that a different month. Just didn't. I duplicate the note and edit it. So these are the lightweight lessons that I learned. One thing that I learned that I didn't type here is the power of forgiveness. I knew the power of forgiveness, but it was re-emphasized for me this month. So that's something. And then some obstacles that I encountered, some weird feelings, some financial discrepancies, I'll say, not going to bed on time. So then I look at not only those top 10 accomplishments, those obstacles, those lessons learned, and those things I've done to grow, but also that assessment. So if you didn't watch that first video, I'll show you really quickly what my monthly assessment looks like. So there are 12 different areas of my life, and I ask myself a series of 10 questions for each of those areas and assess how I'm doing in those areas. So as you can see here, body and health is actually degrading over time, even though I'm supposedly focusing on that. So I'm not sure if I have to shift my approach, but I start to answer these questions. And once I've answered all these questions for my body and my health, my personal life, my wealth and finance, my intellectual life, I go back to my monthly assessment, get the overview score. So out of a possible 120, I have a 90. Then I ask myself, what areas are at the top right now? What areas are doing well? And for May, it was my spiritual life, my general relationships, which is relationships with the outside world, my intimate relationships, which are family and friend relationships, my behaviors and habits, and my intellectual life. Those were, wait. Oh yeah, it is behaviors and habits. I thought I read something wrong. I was looking at 8, but that was for, anyway, those were the areas of my life that were doing relatively well in May. My bottom areas, the areas where I am not doing the hottest or there's some room for improvement, is my love, intimacy, and romance area of my life, my wealth and finance area of my life, and my body and health area. As you can see clearly from these numbers, the reds indicate pretty low scores and the greens indicate pretty high scores, right? I also ask myself if anything increased in score or decreased in score. Typically, I like to focus more on reflection in this area. If I see a lot of decreases, if a lot of my different areas of life are decreasing, it means I need to take a step back and see what happened this month and maybe process that a little longer. Luckily for me, I had a lot of increases in May. I had 4 categories increase. Then I had 2 areas that decreased, and 6 categories of life remained the same. So what I asked myself are, where are these things coming from? So if I notice, for example, I had an increase in my physical environment, what is that from? Typically, I'm switching back and forth between this review and, this assessment and the review. So I can actually go to physical environment, which is category number 3, and see where scores start to increase. So I can see here, okay, my room and my home are clutter-free. I've stayed on top of my chores, so it hasn't been a major task. My home was inspiring to me in May, and it added energy to me, probably because it was clean. And then I go back and, based on those categories, ask myself what specifically happened. So in May, I hired a cleaning crew to help me prepare for my landlord coming to visit. And that investment in a cleaning crew, it was 2 people who cleaned my house for 3 hours. So it was 6 hours of man work. That took the cleanliness level of my house through the roof, and it was sustainable. Once they did that, it was very little maintenance that I had to do to keep that up. So that's why my physical environment felt much healthier and supportive and energizing this month. Or for another example, relationships for family relationships. I spent quality time with my father and my brother and my sister and my grandma and everyone when I went to Georgia. And so I let them know I loved them, right? I spent time talking to them and exploring with them. I also wrote that apology letter to that family member who I mentioned earlier, who I was having a little bit of issues with. And that shifted my feelings towards her and allowed me to be more comfortable with my family, and not feeling like I was being judged or concerned with things like that. So that really boosted up the way I felt about my intimate relationships. I also saw some decreases this month. My community and contribution decreased a little bit. And I realized this because that old mission statement that I'm still working to revise, I really crave mission right now. I really crave a clear, concise purpose. And I feel that I'm following a very vague idea of how I best contribute to the world. And so that's pulling away from me feeling like I'm doing something every day that's changing the world in a positive way. I know I'm working towards that. But every single day, I can't point to one thing that I can say I did to help someone or change the history of the world forever. So that's what that's about. Love, intimacy, and romance. I'll be transparent. I had some great freaking sex in May. But I also realized that that doesn't mean that I'm having a great month in the love, intimacy, and romance category. Sometimes I need more than that, like actually going on dates. I missed a whole week of dates with my husband because I was out of town, and that sort of shifted the way I was feeling connected to him. I also realized that I haven't been the best partner in the world. I realized I've been looking at my phone while Diamond's talking, and that's not healthy. Or realizing that I'm not like giving him a lot of my energy and attention. And so that's kind of altering the amount that I'm feeling intimate and romantic with my partner. So I go through that. Where are my increases coming from? Where are my decreases coming from? That ends the part where I'm looking at the monthly assessment. Then I look at the personal chaos inventory, which is that second tool that I showed you. And let me pull that up. So as I said before, the personal chaos inventory is a way for you to identify what behaviors indicate that you're starting to get out of balance in different areas of life. So, for me, I know I'm out of balance with my physical health if I'm getting less than 7 hours of sleep at night. Or I know my social life is suffering when I have texts that are over 3 days unread or replied to. Like I'm just letting them pile up. Or I haven't talked to any of my besties in over a week, right? So I look at this and ask myself, what areas are showing signs of chaos? So when I look back over here, I can see, my body showing signs of chaos, which makes sense since that area is so low. I'm not getting enough sleep, and I'm not going to bed on time. I'm not meeting my hydration goals for how much water I should drink. Even though my environment score went up, there are still warning signs for my physical environment. The recycling that I'm sitting right in front of, it's piling up. It's not getting out of hand. It doesn't look ridiculously crazy, but it's a warning sign. Like, if you don't handle this within the next week, it could lead you to feel, cluttered or sad. I don't know why, but I feel really sad when the recycling's piled up. I feel like a failure at life. Don't ask me why. Cleanliness is next to godliness. I want to stay there. um, for work, this includes both my 9 to 5, my freelance, and my passion work. And for my freelance work, one of my warning signs is when I am not responding to clients expeditiously because I realize I haven't done their work, or I'm not moving as fast as I should be on an assignment. I have 2 clients that fit in the category. I was like, whoa, pay attention to this. You're not balanced there. And then lastly is my finance. Now, there are some extraneous circumstances that can alter how this is looked at. Like, for example, making a huge purchase impacted one of my savings accounts, but I still put it in there because I know when I'm balanced, my bank accounts look balanced. And I have one bank account out of the 5 that I have where there's a balance below $200. And it's not even the actual balance in that account. I have more than $200 in the bank account. But with Simple, they have your available budget or available amount, which is all the money in your account, and then safe to spend, which means you're not pulling from your goals that you set to spend. And I've been pulling from my goals, so I'm like, that's a warning sign. And I've moved money from my savings to make that big purchase, and for me, that is not necessarily a bad thing, but it's a warning. Like, hey, don't do this too much. Like, it's okay if you're doing something that makes sense with that, but just alerts. You have alerts for identity theft. You have alerts for when your account's overdrafted. You have alerts for someone breaks in your house. Have alerts for when your body's out of balance or when you're breaking into your own bank account, So I do that. And then I identify 3 areas from my personal chaos inventory that I want to work on. So, and these are the habits that are specifically outlined on here. So these things listed here, I think of the opposites of those, right? If the recycling is piling up, then the focus would be recycling. The ones I want to focus on this month, because my body appears in both my personal chaos inventory and my monthly assessment as a low area or area of warning, I'm going to continue to focus on that. So still working to meet my hydrate goals. And I'll do another video explaining how that bottle works. But also going to bed by 10:30, still working on it. And then completing freelance work for clients I've been avoiding because that gives me mental rest, mental peace. That's not only, but one of the things that I get a little antsy about when I am letting people down. Don't want to do it. So then I look at all of this information that I've collected on myself. I look at, from the top, my highlights and accomplishments. Where are they telling me? My obstacles, the lessons learned, the ways that I've taken care of myself. What are they telling me? What is my personal monthly review telling me? And what is my personal chaos inventory telling me? And I use that to create some conclusions. I also look at my calendar. And the reason I look at my calendar is because I color coordinate my different areas of life, like I spoke about in a past video. So orange indicates work, blue indicates loved ones or my husband. What else? Green indicates self-time, things I'm doing for myself. So I'm looking to see if it looks overwhelmingly one color, right? Like this week, there's a lot of friggin' orange. But when I look at May, there seems to be a balance. So that's what that's about. Hold on really quickly. Donovan? Oh, okay. I just had my headphones in. I thought someone was knocking on our door, but apparently they weren't. Anywho, so looking at all those things, conclusions I come up with are ones that I'll use to fuel my progress for the next month. So One thing I learned, for example, is looking at my romance and intimacy category, is that the actual number of dates that I go on doesn't matter as much as the frequency. Like if I went on 5 dates in 1 week and then none for the rest of the month, that wouldn't feel great. So it's really about consistency. And then once I do that for everything, one conclusion I came up with is always order the salad, which is one of the other videos I made. And so, yeah, then I come up with the areas that I'm going to focus on in June. So this is just general life areas. This is different from the chaos elements I work on. Those are things that I'll put in that Done app that I showed before. But just the focuses are things I'll keep in mind. There may be habits that I start to build up, but really just things to think about. So for body and health, getting 7 hours of sleep, drinking enough water. For finances, completing that freelance work, and then finding new clients to begin building additional income, since finance is an issue that came up several times. And then for love and intimacy, so I'm trying to revamp everything because I'm good at revamping, like trying to sit down and have a freaking half-day retreat with my husband, to start doing small gestures of appreciation for my husband. Now, this is where I ended in May because I didn't finish updating my goals in May. If you recall that video, some videos from April and May had those conversations with my therapist about easing up on my goals. But I'll show you what it looked like in the past for me to do that. This may be something I get back to once I figure out the best way to. Vision boards on my desktop. So I'll show you for March. The very last step is I look at my goal sheet. So this was my goal sheet back in March. Look at my monthly actions and my quarterly progress. And then take inventory of my goals. So goals that I met, these are the monthly goals that I met in March, right? So I met quite a few goals in March. Goals that I almost met, like, oh, I'm getting close. See, I've been working on this water and sleep thing for a while, so not getting quite to 7 hours of sleep a night, but 6.8, so I'm almost there. And I didn't drink 42 ounces on average of water per day, but I drank 40, I didn't drink 50, but I drank 42, so almost there, right? Then I look at the goals not met and the goals on hold. So I have a holistic picture of all that I've accomplished, all that I've learned, and all that I've done in the past month. So that is my monthly review. Hopefully this was something that was nourishing or enlightening for you, mind, body, or soul. And remember, change is inevitable, but growth is a choice. I am Brandi Keeler, and I will talk to you tomorrow. Bye.